Good evening, everyone. So we called our meeting to order in our closed executive session, so we can go ahead and begin this meeting. We'll start our meeting with a special public hearing on harassment, intimidation, and bullying. So I'll turn it over to Mr. McDonald and Mrs. Gould.
Good evening, board members and community members. My name is Barbara Gould, and I am the Chief Academic Officer, and Dr. McDonald and I will be co-presenting on the Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying Semi-Annual Report. This covers the period from January 2023 through July 2023. Our hope for this evening is to be able to share with you the definition for what harassment, intimidation, and bullying is as defined by the New Jersey Department of Education, some of the patterns that we have noticed and themes that have emerged regarding our WWP harassment, intimidation, and bullying data, as well as some of the strategies that we utilize as a district in order to be able to proactively address HIB. And then the presentation will end with some additional strategies that we're proposing as we move forward, a change in policy, and some of the work that we have been doing as a district around restorative practices. So the Department of Education defines harassment, intimidation, and bullying. It has to have 4 criteria that need to be met in order for an incident that is reported to be considered HIB. So the first is that it has to be a gesture, written or verbal, physical act, or electronic communication. It can be a single incident or a series of incidents. There needs to be a reasonably perceived characteristic that is part of the allegation that is proposed. It needs to take place on school grounds, school property, at any school-sponsored event, or off school grounds, but it needs to also have a substantial disruption or interfere with the individual student's ability to be productive in school or the orderly operation of the school itself. So in thinking about all of the different incidents that have been reported, here are some of the patterns or themes that we have noticed from our data regarding January 2023 through June 2023. The first is that between that time period, we had a total of 246 investigations. 139 of those were founded. 107 were unfounded, and you can see the percentages there represent the percentages that were founded versus unfounded. This is typical. We have about 50-50. We have investigated all incidents that have been brought forth this year as part of our policy, and we do think that that was part of the reason why the increase in total investigations, because any incident that was reported, in the past, counselors or along with administration have been able to collaborate and make some determinations as to whether or not the incident could be handled in a different way, like through code of conduct or through conflict resolution, but for this year, because of our policy change in the beginning of the year, everything was investigated. So we do think that that is the reason why we had an increase in total number of investigations. The other thing that was interesting, and I think is also related to that same reason, so in terms of our cohorts of students, K through 5 had the greatest number of investigations, but it is important to note that of the investigations at the K-5 level, the 97 of them, 47 of them were founded and 50 were unfounded. So not all of them were founded, but it goes back to that, investigating every incident that comes to our attention as potential HIB, as opposed to being able to address things in other ways. Our middle school and high school numbers are here as well, and you can see that middle school was the second area with the most, followed by the high school. In terms of investigations by distinguishing characteristics, the two areas where we had the most investigations were around distinguishing characteristics were around appearance, and also with race and ethnicity. There's also a column there that you can see that says not identifiable. That means that the report or the incident that was reported was not based off of a characteristic, and this represents many of our unfounded cases that were not based off of a motivating characteristic. So the data is showing us as a summary, we did have an increase in investigations, as students have continued to adjust from the social isolation experience during COVID. We have seen an increase in investigations. We also think the increase is a result of the policy change of investigating all incidents and not allowing for any discretion from our administration in collaboration with, our school counselors. And then the other piece is the appearance, race, and ethnicity as the distinguishing characteristics. That has not changed. Those seem to still be the two areas for our students. And the elementary school cluster is definitely a change from previous years, as we mentioned at the first semi-annual report. Another area that we also take a look at is our anti-bullying rubric. So teams, our school climate teams meet throughout the year in order to think about proactive strategies to address anti-bullying. And through that, they also participate every year and report out to the DOE using the ARB, or the anti-bullying rubric. So each of the indicators is reported out with a maximum score of 3 points. A school's maximum grade is 78 points, and this is determined in collaboration with the members that are on the school climate and culture teams. They utilize this information to be able to set goals for the following year, to look at areas of strength, and then also to look at areas of growth. There are 8 core elements that are looked at for the self-assessment, and this particular information applies to January 2023 through through July 2023. So here's some of the data to show. So as you can see, we score fairly well on most of our elements. One area, that is a strength for us related to the areas that we look at is our curriculum and instruction on HIB. So our SEL components through K through 8 especially is an area of strength. And then an area that we continue to think about is how do we train staff members, especially staff members such as our bus drivers, our instructional assistants, and other staff members on our policies and ways to continue to proactively address HIB. Here are some of the other indicators and core elements and how we scored. And then on this slide, you can see the averages by level. So you can see our elementary, middle, and high school levels. And these scores are comparable to previous years. Again, it's out of 78 maximum points. The other area that I wanted to highlight are some of the proactive strategies that we utilize to address harassment, intimidation, and bullying. And I will just give a couple of examples because the list can go on for forever. So obviously our strategic goals are aligned to this work and prevention. But one of the areas I wanted to highlight are our student-led initiatives. So for instance, students at High School North collaborated with teachers and administration to plan and conduct DEI Day. And another area of student-led initiatives or student involvement, we led focus groups with students to take a look at our code of conduct and get feedback from our students regarding the code of conduct, and then utilize their information to make some adjustments. And then also I wanted to highlight our counseling program. Our counselors, especially K-8, push into the classroom, and also 9-12. They conduct small groups, they offer one-to-one support, and they support our students through proactively. Dr. McDonald will now highlight some additional changes that we are proposing that we feel will also help with our work with anti-bullying.
Thank you, Dr. Gould. I want to take this opportunity, obviously, to discuss not only the policy change with regards to HIB, but also talk a little bit about some of the other work that we've been doing behind the scenes regarding restorative practices. Tonight, in the second reading of our HIB policy, you will see that one of the changes is to enact the opportunity to provide principal predetermination. And what that essentially does is that if there is an issue or concern that's brought forward to the school administration, of course it's going to be investigated, of course it's going to be addressed, but it may not necessarily meet the definition of what HIB is, going back to the criteria that was shared at the beginning of the presentation. That being said, I do believe this is a good thing. I expect that the number of investigations will go down. Certainly can't promise that. I think that is a good thing, and it's not about the work per se with the investigation process, but it is about what's best for students and ultimately families, and that if an issue comes forward and there's an opportunity to address something either through some sort of restorative practice, some sort of code of conduct, counselor follow-up, other interventions without necessarily launching a HIB investigation, I do believe that is a good thing. Of course, when in doubt, we will launch that investigation. We will go through that process to make sure that we're doing our due diligence. And if there's any doubt, we will launch that investigation. I do believe when an investigation is launched, unfortunately, in my experience, it does put some people on their heels, right? It's an intimidating process in and of itself. You make that phone call to a parent, you have a conversation about an incident. It detracts from what ultimately, to me, is important, which is giving the students an opportunity to obviously reflect on what transpired, to learn, and to grow. And that's some of the things that I want to talk about here. All this being said, understand that there are procedural safeguards. So part of this policy that you will see is that if ultimately the principal, working with the anti-bullying specialist, the school counselor, SAC, working with their administrative colleagues, determines that they are going to use this option in terms of preliminary determination, one, the 338 form, which is the standard statewide form that went into effect last year, still has to be completed. And the question has to be asked, it has to be answered by both the principal and ultimately central office administration with regards to, was that preliminary determination made here, and if so, why? So that process is still well documented, right? There's still communication to the parent in writing about that process and that this ultimately was the decision. The parent still has a right to appeal. There are still Board of Education reporting. So all of those procedural safeguards are there. There's complete transparency in the process. It just means that simply some issues or concerns that come forward may not be appropriate for a harassment, intimidation, and bullying investigation. That said, as I said before, that still means that they're still going to be investigated. They just might be addressed through some other fashion, conflict resolution, counselor follow-up, intervention, the code of conduct, for example. So wanted to highlight those changes going forward. Additionally, I wanted to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about the code of conduct. In our first reading for this evening, you'll see updates to our code of conduct. This is a yearly process that we go through with our administrative team to reflect back on the year, look at things that we feel might need to be tweaked in terms of what disciplinary infractions are and how we might apply them. The work that we've done in the last few years in light of post-pandemic behavioral challenges, to me, has been a very good thing. I credit my administrative colleagues, our assistant principals, our principals, Dr. Gould, and their willingness to have these conversations about traditional disciplinary practices, right? So I'll talk about the restorative practice piece in a second, but these are some sample things that we've looked at in terms of alternative discipline practices. One, looking at potential counselor check-ins. I mentioned the conflict resolution, a reflective essay, some sort of restitution, apology letter. These are just samples. We actually did a book study this year looking at Don't Suspend Me, and had that ongoing conversation with our administrative team about what traditional practices are and kind of where we are in the progression, looking at alternative discipline, looking at restorative practices. So the question is, what are restorative practices? You have a rough definition here, but ultimately it is about giving your staff the tools, the opportunities to have reflective conversations with students, to involve the different stakeholders, to repair harm, to have an opportunity to address school climate challenges that might be in front of you. It really is something that involves all the various stakeholders. Why restorative practices? I think that one thing that we've learned as educators, especially post-pandemic, is that a suspension is there's limits to that, what that does for a child, right? In terms of the impact, it doesn't necessarily give an opportunity to address the behavior, it doesn't necessarily give an opportunity to repair the harm, all of those other pieces that I just spoke to. So that's why we've looked at these alternative discipline practices. All that being said, if there is something that is pretty egregious, it violates the code of conduct, by all means. That doesn't mean that we're not going to implement a suspension. There are instances that occur where that's necessary and appropriate, but we always want to get to the root of the issue, to have those conversations, which to me are very powerful with the students, whether they were the alleged offender, the alleged victim, and repair some of that harm and address the behavior, address whatever challenges in front of you. So the benefits of restorative practices, again, to me it's about building those relationships. And again, every situation is unique, so there are different scenarios that unfold that depending on what that circumstance is, it may not be the most appropriate measure, right? We understand that. It gives the opportunity for respectful behaviors for all, provides that opportunity from an equity standpoint for multiple conversations. Something happens, child just isn't suspended and nobody knows about it, and then that goes away, right? There's opportunities to address the issues by including the relevant stakeholders. Encourages that reflection and taking responsibility for an action. It gives students the opportunity, as I said before, to really reflect, learn, and grow. These are some sample restorative questions, right? So this past year, and even going back 2 years ago, we've done staff professional development. We've worked with our administrative colleagues to talk about what restorative practices are, how you frame conversations with students, how you frame conversations in the classroom. And these are some of those sample questions, right? Something occurs, what happened, right? What was the incident? What were you thinking at the time, for example? Have you thought about since? What could you have done differently? Again, all appropriate questions. It depends on the grade level, of course. It depends on the age of the child, the grade level in terms of what's appropriate. And what do you think needs to happen next, perhaps? As you can imagine, this aligns to our strategic goals for the district. The obvious connections are SEL, when you think about responsible decision-making, self-awareness, relationship skills, the equity piece I spoke to a minute ago. You could certainly make the argument around student choice and voice, goal 1, giving students the opportunity to be a part of that process, and you certainly could tie it to goal 2, which is regards to understanding diverse perspectives. In conclusion, this is the district mission that we've held from day one, going back to 2010 with regards to HIB, and that we're going to proactively work with our community, making sure that we're, of course, adhering to the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. We're going to make sure that we are addressing HIB in a timely fashion. We are going to make sure that we're establishing those expectations for behavior, and that we're certainly keeping a transparent lens when it comes to the Board of Education, it comes to our parents. We never shy away from conversations. We're willing to have conversations about challenges and do everything that we can to address them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McDonald, and also to Dr. Gold for the presentation. Are there any questions from board members? Graylin?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. McDonald and Dr. Gould. When alternative discipline is put into action, at what point or maybe in what situations would parents or caregivers be brought into the conversation to also be proactive and involved at the home?
Great question. Really from the onset, once obviously we've done our investigation, we've had a conversation with the stakeholders that know about, interviewed witnesses, all of those things. But that phone call home to the parents, of course, you're talking about the code of conduct, but you're also talking about, you're emphasizing that need for addressing the challenge, right? And not necessarily just, and some of that is just having an individual conversation with the parent about our philosophy when it comes to discipline. Ideally, you want to engage that parent, and it's not just a phone call saying your child's suspended and we'll see you in a week, 2 weeks. It is help us understand your perspective as a parent, help us how we can support your child in addressing that behavioral challenge, and of course, having that conversation about the code of conduct is if there is a specific infraction. But I think the more that we can have those conversations with parents, we need that partnership to ultimately address the situation. I think we need their support. So however we can do that, even if they disagree about what transpired or how we're handling it, we try to take that approach where it's a partnership.
That's great, thank you.
Thank you. Dana?
Thank you also for this report. I had a question about the number of investigations. Do you have a sense of how this compares to other districts that may be somewhat similar to ours?
I can tell you that HIB investigations statewide have been up significantly post-pandemic, not just in New Jersey, disciplinary, dysregulated behavior. Those are national statistics. Unfortunately, it takes a year to get that data that you're speaking to, but I will tell you, even looking at it last year and having conversations with colleagues in other districts, that everybody was up. Everybody's seeing this, which I think is part of the reason why you have some of the amendments to the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights that gives people that opportunity to have that preliminary discretion when incidents are reported.
Thank you. Any other questions, Pooja?
Thank you also for the presentation. I had a question in regards to also the total number of investigations. Do you have data on what the breakdown is per school? I know that there's by grade level. I see that one slide, but do you have it by school at all?
We do have it by school. Of course, it's for us, it's for internal conversations that we have with the schools, with the anti-bullying specialists. When we bring our teams together, we encourage them to look at that data. The same thing goes for our disciplinary data. I just met with my administrative colleagues not too long ago to look at the data on their school, giving them access to, who are the offenders, who are the alleged victims, what are the patterns that you're seeing. Obviously, when it comes to the public board reports, our intent is not to single out any one individual schools, but that is data that we look at internally to think about what are some of the challenges specific to your building, specific to grade levels, and how can we address them.
Thank you. Any other questions? Liz?
Thank you also for this presentation and also for including some sample questions along the lines of restorative questions. It just gives a better sense of the approach. What types of procedural safeguards can you put for a child who might be bringing forth such an incident so that they feel safe and comfortable in being part of this alternative approach?
Sure. I think that one, it's listening and validating their perspective, how they're feeling. I think two, it's also letting them know that whatever incident occurred, that it's not something that's going to be tolerated, that it's going to be addressed. Again, every situation is unique, but I think then when the child is part of that conversation, and while the child not necessarily going to dictate how you respond, but knowing that that child is providing information that you can then use as part of the restorative process, I think is really important. And then also letting, again, going back to working with that family and working with that individual parent or caregiver as to how we can support them. And when necessary, you have to put interventions in place, right? There might be situations where there is truly harassment, intimidation, or bullying occurring. So, of course, addressing that issue, of course, getting to the root cause of the behavior, but also what's the follow-up, right? What does that look like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road? You know, is a counselor checking in? Is somebody making sure, is the staff member that might be eyes and ears in the classroom aware of something that might be brewing or might be there that they should, so they can report that and we can address it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Lloyd?
Thank you again for the presentation. I was surprised at the last presentation with HRB that the numbers for the K-5 group had gone up so high. And I guess with the preliminary determination policy change, are you hoping to see those numbers, I guess, in that age group come down? Or are there any other things that you're looking for with like the principal having discretion? I guess the other question too is, would parents be contacted even in those instances where it may not warrant a HIB investigation, but would be something that the principal, like what would that look like?
Sure. So I'll work backwards. If a parent, sends an email and says, my son has been bullied, for example, currently the process is that's investigated right away, right, as an HIV investigation. Parent sends that same email in September. Of course, it's going to be validated. We're going to have a conversation with that parent, assuming it's not anonymous, right? There are methods for reporting anonymously, but you're going to gather those facts. You're going to look at that in light of what you know. You're going to do a preliminary investigation to determine whether or not that's even something that fits within those 4 prongs, and then make that determination as to, HIB or something else. With regards to the first part of your question, in terms of the numbers, I mean, traditionally, what we've seen, pre-pandemic, it's been a bell curve, right? Middle school students are finding themselves, developing their own identity. That's where you've seen the apex of HIB. So it has been surprising to see that at the elementary level. So I do hope that those numbers will come down. But, the numbers, to me, are what they are, right? But it's how we address them, how we respond to them. But I could tell you that, when you launch a formal HIB investigation with a first or second grader, nobody feels good about that, right? So let's try to think about how can we address those behaviors in an alternative manner that's still going to get to the root of the problem.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. McDonald.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now have a special opportunity for public comment, and this is just to the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report that we just heard. There will be another opportunity for public comments later on. So the board invites thoughts and reactions on the district's semi-annual report of harassment, intimidation, and bullying from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement. Each comment should be directed to the presiding officer, not individual members of the board, and must be made in accordance with the procedures and 3-minute time limit set forth in Board Policy 0167. This public comment period shall be limited to 10 minutes. So are there any public comments on the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report? Okay. Hearing none, I will close this public comment portion. So now, can I have a motion to accept the January 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2023 District Semi-Annual Report of Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying as required by the New Jersey State Department of Education under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act, and to verify that the school district and school grade report issued by the New Jersey Department of Education was reviewed as required by the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act, and that this report was posted on the district's website. Liz and Greenland, any questions or comments? Chris?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Bonso.
Yes.
Jeez, I'm stuttering all of a sudden. And next is Ms. Chiniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes, thank you. All right, so that will adjourn our special public hearing on harassment, intimidation, and bullying, and so we'll now go to our regular meeting. Any comments? Okay. All right, so we'll then move to the first opportunity for public comments. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes. Are there any public comments?
Good evening. My name is Mihir Shankar, and I reside at 35 Grayland Drive, Princeton Junction. We have been informed that Dr. Dauber has been relocated away from High School North and has moved to Grover Middle School. We feel as though it is unfair to relocate him after he has served as our high school principal for so many years. He has gathered knowledge and built connections that is impossible to recreate. Last year, I had the opportunity to work with him as both on student council and as a Board of Education representative. And through this experience, he has taught me how to lead by example, be organized, and get more involved throughout the school. Most importantly, though, he is open to suggestions and communication with our students, and he always agrees to take action on concerns from students and peers. At the very least, we would like to know why he is being relocated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
My name is Johnson Lin, and I reside at 417 Plainsboro Road. And today I also wanted to talk about Dr. Dauber. And I just wanted to start with how much he has helped us through the administration process at High School North. This year has been particularly tough on not only student council, but also the clubs I'm part of, which include Model United Nations and Model Congress. This is due to a lot of club policy changes that have been happening this year, which requires us to restructure our financing, and it's been a tough situation, which Dr. Dauber has helped us throughout the year. Not only is Dr. Dauber experienced with the administrative point of view of helping students achieve the change they want in High School North, he's also been a great part of making sure that we actually have our voices heard. You've heard about DEI Day from the previous HIB report. DEI Day would not have been possible without Dr. Dauber's guidance. But impact on a community extends beyond just the administrative change that you can make. It's also the change that you can make in someone's heart, which Dr. Dauber has also been able to do. If you open up your yearbook from this year, one of the art student sections has a photograph of Dr. Dauber standing in our main halls. I find it very representative of the change that Dr. Dauber has made, not just among our school, but also among the children. For example, this year during our Welcome Back orientation, Dr. Dauber gives a speech that helps us become better people. It is a speech that I look forward to because it reminds me of why I'm part of student council. And so I ask for an explanation, like previously said, on why Dr. Dauber is moving. And I also ask that we keep Dr. Dauber in High School North so we can continue inspiring children in the future and inspiring change that I mentioned before. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Sunny starry greetings. It's twilight, Makranbidway, Princeton, New Jersey. This person appears or has a resemblance with one of the board members who happens to be the chair of curriculum committee. I have sent email to her and to the president. Can she identify on camera to dispel any suspicion that this is her violating a traffic code in Plainsboro, and I happen to be there. This is an Oprah video of 6 minutes, which resembles her, everything from nostrils up through the hairline. I have run through privately crowdsourcing, and they have all agreed that this is the same BOE member. What is going on here? Why, if this is true, I don't know whether it's true, she will tell me. If this is true, why are we not helping widening the road? I happened to speak to some mayor, I don't want to name anybody, and they said it's a matter of easement that this board and the Plainsboro Council and the administration of both, both entities can get together and get this road widened. Nothing is happening. So I hope that I will be more crowdsourcing this if I don't get a proper answer. Yes or no is only my request. The next thing is, I'm a messenger and I get attacked for bringing out the truth. And this is in a very deplorable state, and the Professor Jennifer Lee, and I misspoke, she is the professor of sociology, not psychology, and she was on the point that the superintendent did not understand the framing of the situation, which New York Times had already done for him. It was ready on the platter, and he is ignoring it, and he is steamrolling his personal agenda, or agenda of maybe 5-15 people. And to what extent? And there is another dimension to that. To do that, he goes through a process of a formal study where he is discarding the University of Virginia, the Rutgers University, I believe there was one from Connecticut, who offered bids to show whether math is good or not in upper elementary. And he discards all that, and then he finds a nondescript person, a one-woman entity from Indiana, whom I sent an email, by the way. She didn't respond. Gave her $23,000 to tell these kids and parents that more math in younger grades is bad math or not required. I don't know where we are going, but I'll come back in the next opportunity, because we need to not have a person who is not a good leader, a good listener.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Hello. Hi, my name is Nida Malhotra, and I live at 32 Nestlewood Bay. Adding on to the previous students that have talked about not wanting Dr. Dauber to leave High School North, I would like to add through my personal experience working with Dr. Dauber. I used to be the vice president of our district's youth and government chapter, which is not school affiliated. However, this team of 20 kids had the opportunity to go and basically to a conference and earn a multitude of awards. And we wanted to make our club official at High School North. Through our experience, taking that initiative, as well as wanting to talk to administration, I just want to talk about how well Dr. Dauber handled that situation, not only writing emails and responding to emails, but also taking out the time to sit down with us and discuss on what are the parameters and what are the boundaries of clubs at High School North and what they can do to help us become more official, even if we can't really be a club, how we could still reach out to our community in alternative ways. His influence on his students are way beyond just the four walls of High School North, and he's ready to really listen to us and talk to us and build relationships with us, which I think is very, very unique and very, very important for a principal. We can reach out to him, and I think that should be a key decision factor when you're deciding to move him to Grover Middle School. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Ania Chanta. I reside at 12 Clydesdale Court in Plainsboro. And along with my fellow students here, who most of us are seniors, we have been seeing Dr. Dauber for the past 3 years, although one was virtual. Dr. Dauber is nothing but approachable, And I feel as a principal, that's something we really value at North, to be able to talk to our principal and feel like we're not going to be talked to at like an inferior level. And every year, Dr. Dauber also gives a little speech near October, November, and even in the beginning of the school year. And I feel like that really brings together our students and our student body each year. And he's always in the hallways, always talking to people. And I feel like this really represents like who Dr. Dauber is and how he forms our culture at North, to make sure that the student body is connected to the faculty as well. So I feel like we built this relationship with Dr. Dauber for the past 3 years, and I assume there is a valid reason for his transfer to Grover, but I feel keeping him at High School North is very valuable to us, especially since I think as seniors, when we graduate, we want to receive our diploma from Dr. Dauber, and that would just accumulate the past 4 years that we've had with him. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, last call. All right, thank you. Seeing none, I will close the first opportunity for public comments.
Mr. Toscano, our board attorney, I believe you're going to address the one gentleman's comments, and then I'd like to speak to the students.
Sure. If it's okay, I'd address the students first. I always am so impressed every time students from this district come and give comment. They are articulate. They are obviously intelligent, thoughtful, and concise with their comments. The board does listen to all public comments, and I just wanted to relay to you guys, one, again, how impressive you all are, again, but also to just let you know that I know at least the first two speakers asked for reasons. Under New Jersey law, all public employees, including Dr. Dauber, who you were all here in support of and you all spoke very eloquently in favor of, the board cannot publicly discuss issues of any performance or anything involving an employee. Not saying that the recommended move has anything to do with performance. So you were asking for a why, and that gets into issues of personnel. So if that answer is not given publicly, I did not want you, and I believe I can speak for the board on this behalf, Ms. Juliana, I didn't want you to leave here thinking that you weren't heard, that you were ignored, or that the board wasn't listening intently when all of you spoke. So if there is no public response given to you for that, there is a legal reason as to why. And I just wanted to explain that to all of you so that you didn't think you were being ignored. So I just wanted to address that first. Second, as to the other gentleman, I'm not sure where to begin, because it has been a series of bizarre comments. Tonight might be the most bizarre. I find it ironic that the one speaker feels that they are being attacked for being a messenger, and yet had the temerity to stand here in public and to show an image of a community member at a traffic stop and say, well, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not sure what the point of the comment was. I find it disturbing, and I think I speak for the board in this behalf, that this individual would come to a public meeting, parade around a picture, make references to a woman's nostrils and forehead, and somehow insinuate that there was something improper about a traffic stop that you observed, and that you are somehow the self-appointed guardian or whatever you feel you are, that somehow members of the public have to answer to you because you have Oprah police surveillance or body cam video footage of a traffic stop. Have you no shame? You come here, seek to publicly embarrass a woman who's a mother, who is a volunteer community member? Sir, I think you need to look at, you complained again that you feel attacked. What you did was the very definition of an attack. And whether that is a board member or not, a traffic stop is not disqualifying. It is not an offense that has to be responded to publicly. But if the board wishes to entertain that, that's their business. But that was wholly out of bounds.
Thank you, Mr. Toscano. And Ms. Maliga, I know you want to respond, so please do.
No, I mean, I appreciate folks coming out, students, and just expressing your opinion and during public comment. But I was surprised too with the reference to my nostrils and forehead, and this image being sent to people that I know, asking, "Is this her? Is this her?" I mean, it's kind of comical and at the same time a bit creepy, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I am a mom. I'm a volunteer. I'm someone who works, and I care about the students in this community. I have 3 of them who are part of this this community in this district, and I'm proud of the work that I do and the volunteer work that I do. So it is a little disturbing, I have to say, sir. But to answer the question, it is not me, but I do feel for the woman that is in that picture who's now, of public record on this meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Maliga. Dr. Adderhold, any comments?
Yeah, I would like to address the students. First of all, thank you to the 8 of you that came out this evening for the public comments that were made on behalf of your principal. As a former high school principal myself, I could tell you that Dr. Dauber has a lot to be proud of, having you come here this evening to represent him in public comment, to speak on behalf of students, and to say such kind remarks. And he has a lot to be proud of over his last 8 years at High School North. So I thank you for that. As Mr. Toscano stated this evening, I'm not able to respond based on it's a personnel matter. But as the students have noted, the one change, as the board moves forward this evening, I think it's fair to note to the public that it's associated with 4 changes in administration. The students spoke to 1 of them. So the recommendations this evening on the personnel agenda are for Dr. Dauber to move to Grover Middle School. And Dr. Dauber is a former elementary 4-6 principal. He is a former high school principal in Lawrence. He is a former middle school teacher. And it's an opportunity for Dr. Dauber for his professional growth to go to Grover. Mr. Thomas, who is the current principal of Grover Middle School, would be moved to High School North. Mr. Thomas is a former high school English teacher, high school assistant principal, and high school principal before coming here to Grover Middle School. He was a principal of one of the top-ranked high schools in this nation. So we are very pleased with the recommendation of Mr. Thomas to go to High School North. Associated with High School North is also the move of Ms. O'Brien to Community Middle School. Ms. O'Brien being the assistant principal currently at High School North, and she would be moving to Community Middle School, where she has spent 16 years as a middle school guidance counselor before being a director of counseling in another district, and then coming to here as assistant principal. And Ms. Singh, the current middle school assistant principal at Community Middle School, who was an 8-year high school biology and chemistry teacher in Cherry Hill, and a middle school assistant principal in another community, would then be moving to High School North with students that she served for the past 3 years. She knows the freshmen, sophomore, and juniors next year because they were all with her at Community. And then the last No, those are the four. We also have a recommendation for a new director of counseling. I'll make that recommendation when we get to the personnel agenda. So I just wanted to frame that bigger than just the Dr. Dauber recommendation. So again, my thanks to the students for your attendance this evening. And I'll hold comments regarding the other speaker till later. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. And again, I do want to echo what's already been said. Thank you to the students for coming out today and for your comments. So now we'll turn to our board committee reports. We'll start with Administration and Facilities Committee. Dana?
Good evening. The Administration and Facilities Committee met on Tuesday, July 18th. The committee reviewed the following policies and regulations, which are recommended for a first reading at tonight's Board of Education meeting. There's Policy 1121 as benefits covering non-affiliated central office administrative employees, Category C. Policy 1122, benefits covering non-affiliated administrative employees, Category A. Policy 1124, benefits covering non-affiliated part-time school security officers and pool operator, Category D. And Policy 1125, benefits covering non-affiliated community education staff, which is Category E. And then Policy 1126, which is benefits covering foremen, Category F. And Policy 1127, benefits covering non-affiliated administrative employees, which is Category G. And then Policy 4420, benefits covering non-affiliated support staff, Category B. And then the two discipline, student discipline and code of conduct, the Policy 5600 and its accompanying regulation, 5600. The committee also reviewed the following policies and regulations, which are recommended for a second reading and approval at tonight's meeting. The first is the Policy 5512, which is harassment, intimidation, or bullying. Policy 2520, instructional supplies, and the regulation on instructional supplies, R2520. Next, Dr. Russo, who is here is our board secretary and also the assistant superintendent for finance, joined us to discuss some potential options for district solar power via the Energy Savings Improvement Program, sometimes called ESIP. Then Dr. McDonald also updated the committee on ongoing referendum projects, including the ceiling work that's being installed at High School North Culinary Arts Room, that there's finishing work happening in the Media Center, including the circulation desks and stacks installation also at High School North. Phase 2 construction at Wyckoff School, including renovation to the Media Center, main office, nurses suite, and front entrance is well underway. Framing, plumbing, and electrical work also continues there. And punch list items remain at Millstone River and Dutch Neck School Media Centers, with move-in underway. The committee also received an update on the work of the School Start Time Exploration Committee thus far, including current and applicable research and the potential impacts on grade levels, family schedules, and childcare. The committee's upcoming meeting will focus on transportation and the possible effects of alternative school start times. The committee also reviewed a proposal from WWP High School North students to create a little library outside district elementary schools that would provide free year-round access to appropriate grade-level text to support literacy within the community. The committee reviewed updated job descriptions as well for Secretary 2, Security Coordinator, Teacher Resource Specialist for Instruction and Intervention, Instructional Assistant for English Language Learners, and Mental Health Clinician. The committee recommends the job descriptions for approval at tonight's board meeting. And the committee will next meet on August 23rd.
Okay, thank you, Dana. Well, now, any questions from board members? Okay, so now we'll turn to the Curriculum Committee report. Loy?
Thanks, Rachel. The Curriculum Committee met on July 18th. We began the meeting discussing district professional development, specifically the administrative retreat, Dr. Gould described to the committee the purposes and structures and theme of the retreat, where all administrators participate in 4 days of professional development, centered on the district's strategic goals, operations, and initiatives in preparation to lead students and staff. This year's theme, From Belonging to Connection, demonstrates the district's commitment to ensuring that all stakeholders feel a sense of connection to our school community. Next, Dr. Gould provided an update regarding the planning and preparation that has continued in order to support staff in full implementation of the multi-level classes in ninth grade world history, LA, math, and biology. In August, teachers have been invited to participate in a 3.5-day mini institute in which they will engage in professional development experiences centered around differentiated instruction. In addition to the Summer Institute, teachers will also continue to participate in professional development throughout this school year regarding multi-level classes. Next, Dr. Gould shared a list of professional development opportunities available to staff as a result of the partnership with between the district and TCNJ through the Teachers as Scholars program. This district is able to send 1 teacher per workshop, and some examples of the seminars offered include maker spaces, inclusion and inquiry, fostering student belonging, and a passion for mathematics and teaching science through issues. Then Dr. Gould provided a summary of the district's multi-year plan and goal to transition support services for students to a more comprehensive multi-tiered system of support framework, MTSS, which aims to increase student achievement through tiered intervention services. MTSS focuses on academic and social, emotional, and behavioral interventions. In the first year of implementation, the district will focus its training and professional development in partnership with 5 pilot schools, with the plan to fully implement MTSS in the 24-25 school year at all schools. On tonight's agenda to be voted on, first, evaluation instruments. The Curriculum Committee recommends approval of the following. First, the Charlotte Danielson Framework for Teaching, 2013, as the evaluation instrument for all certified staff, except for the administrators. The second, New Jersey Principal Evaluation for Professional Learning as the evaluation instrument for administrators. And then the last, the Highly Effective Option and the Alternative Evaluation Rubric are being used as part of the evaluation process for highly effective teachers. Next, the committee recommends approval of the adoption of a new textbook for AP U.S. History entitled The American Yawp, published by Stanford University Press 2022. Next, the Curriculum Committee regarding professional development consultants recommend approval for the following. First, 2 are with Dreambox Learning. The first is to provide 2 reading plus professional development webinars to district staff for the 23-24 school year at a cost not to exceed $3,400. Also with Dreambox Learning to provide 3 mathematics professional development webinars to district staff during this upcoming school year at a cost not to exceed $6,725. And then the last consultant, Dr. Pledger Fedora, to present Orton Gillingham Academy 30-hour classroom educator training from September 11th of this year to the 15th, virtually to district English language learner teachers at a cost not to exceed $8,050. The committee also recommends its partnership between the district and the College of New Jersey for dual enrollment for students, WWP students, to earn dual enrollment college credits while in high school. Next, the committee recommends approval of the listing of community education fall 2023 adult, youth, and after-school enrichment programs, which are listed in tonight's agenda for approval of those. Next, the committee recommends approval of disposal of the following obsolete instructional materials in accordance with R7 300.1. These are all at the different schools' media centers. First would be 1,628 books from Maurice Hawk, 786 from Millstone River, 1,254 from Town Center, 3,669 books from Village School, 3,329 books from Grover. And these books are meet of one of two criteria. First, they are outdated as to no longer serve as worthy instructional tools, or they are worn and damaged as to preclude effective use and economical repair or restoration. Next, with technology, the Curriculum Committee recommends the following technology contracts. First, a one-year agreement with Dreambox Learning to provide remote learning, blended learning solutions advanced for K-5 students for reading digital content instruction from August 1st of this year through July 31st of 2024 at a cost not to exceed $60,741. A one-year agreement with Rethink Ed to provide digital content for tiered systems of support supporting MTTS, social emotional learning, academic and data analysis from the 1st of September this year through August 31st of 2024 at a cost not to exceed $30,140. And the last bit for technology, one-year agreement with Linkit to provide data warehousing, analytics, and assessment solutions from the 1st of July of this year through July 30th, 2024 at a cost not to exceed $80,558. Next, the Curriculum Committee recommends acceptance of a grant from the West Windsor-Plainsboro Education Foundation in the amount of $50,027.61 to be used by June 30th, 2025, and used only for STEAM programs and initiatives that directly benefit WWP school district students. Once all funds are expended as part of the grant agreement, a final report outlining how the funds were spent and provided benefits to district students will be provided to Mr. Daniel Murray, Esquire Curtin, and Hefner, LLP, and Yardley. Next, the Curriculum Committee recommends the acceptance of the entitlement grants for Elementary and Secondary Education Act from the state of New Jersey for the fiscal year 2024, and it's as follows. Title I, Part A, $201,625. Title II, Part A, $110,696. Title III, $64,236. Title III, Immigrant, $86,811. And then Title IV, $15,879. The Curriculum Committee recommends approval of the grants that I'm about to, these non-public grants. First, textbooks, French American School of Princeton, $5,839. And the technology from the French American School of Princeton, $4,949. And then non-public technology expenditure, the committee recommends also with the French American School of Princeton, oh, that's the same one, $4,949, excuse me. Last, professional contracts. The Curriculum Committee recommends approval of a district membership in Teachers as Scholars at Princeton University for the 23-24 school year at a cost of $2,160. The membership includes 18 professional development days as Teachers as Scholars seminars. So, the next meeting for our committee is August 15th. Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, Loy. Are there any questions from board members? All right, so we'll go now to the Finance Committee report. Louisa?
So the Finance Committee met on July 18th. The committee reviewed the agenda items for tonight's board meeting, including the following. The administration shared with the committee that the district has sufficient funds to complete the fiscal year. There is a motion on the agenda to approve the student accident insurance program. No bids were received for the town center sensory playground installation, so there is a motion to approve the administration's negotiating with a qualified vendor to do the installation. There is also a motion to approve 2 music vendors to complete repairs to the district's musical instruments. The resurfacing of High School South dance studio floor is on the agenda for approval. There is a motion to approve the disposal of obsolete equipment. There are motions to rescind a transportation contract and to approve other transportation bids. And the final motion is for the approval of staff travel. Staff reported that the business office staff are working on closing out the fiscal year. The auditors have not started their in-district work at this time. The administration plans to submit for achievement of a merit goal for financial reporting for the Assistant Superintendent of Finance. This has been delayed because the merit goal is tied to an ASBO International Award, and ASBO is behind in reviewing the financial reports that have already been submitted to them. In transportation, staff reported the district went out for bid for after-school routes twice. We did not get bids that were acceptable for one route, so we will now negotiate directly with the bus companies. Staff updated the committee on breakfasts and lunches served in June. Sodexo, our food service contractor, has hired 2 more staff members for September. The high school South's new walk-in freezers infrastructure work is moving along. The walk-in box will arrive in mid-August. Staff reported that there is $146,000 left from the supply chain assistance funds available for the 23-24 school year. And starting this fall, the district will be offering breakfast in all of the elementary schools. Next, staff updated the committee on construction projects. At Wyckoff, last week the new electric service was installed as part of the Wyckoff Phase 1 project. This involves shutting down the electric service temporarily. The second phase of the asbestos abatement for the HVAC portion of the Wyckoff project is not needed. Only the first phase will occur next week. The Phase 2 renovation work at Wyckoff is moving along with the completion of the porous pavement installation. In the media center, the metal stud framing work continues, and the underground plumbing and underground electrical work has been completed. The HVAC duct work has started in that area as well. The district has been notified that the rooftop units for the HVAC project have been delayed until October. Work continues on the HVAC installation with controls being installed, ductwork and pipe installation, and the electricians are pulling wires for the first classroom units. As part of the continuing investigation into the water problem in the Wyckoff gym, 3 soil borings through the Wyckoff gym floor were conducted. The results indicate that the water is not from the groundwater level. Further waterproofing of the gym walls will be the next step. At Dutch Neck and Millstone, the work at both libraries has been completed. The project is at the punch list and closeout phase. At Town Center, the first library renovation meeting was held last week and work will begin shortly. The sensory playground work has been bid out 2 times, and both times no one has submitted a bid. Administration will negotiate with the equipment provider to install the equipment. At High School North, work at the library and culinary arts lab continues and is mostly complete. Painting is all but complete, and the circulation desk and furniture installation will begin this week. The first job meeting was held for the replacement of the sanitary main at High School North. At South, for the walk-in freezer, the under-slab plumbing has been completed, and the freezer box's delivery is expected mid-August. Staff updated the committee on 2 additional items. The administration approved a purchase from Dell totaling $188,000 for equipment for an additional server farm for the technology department. And the district sold 11 solar renewable energy credits on the spot market for $212 each, totaling $2,332. The committee's next meeting was scheduled for August 15th. It has tentatively been rescheduled to August 23rd.
Great. Thank you, Louisa. Are there any questions from board members? All right, so we'll now move to the voting portion of our meeting. Can I have a motion for administration items 1 through 15 plus the purple addendum? Dana and Robin, any questions or comments? Okay, Chris.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes. All right, we'll move to curriculum items. Can I have a motion for curriculum items 1 through 14? Loy and Pooja, any questions or comments? All right, Chris?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes. We'll now move to finance items. Can I have a motion for finance items 1 through 15 plus the blue addendum? Louisa and Graylin, any questions or comments? Chris?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Bonsall.
Yes.
Ms. Cheniera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes. Right, we'll now move to personnel items. Can I have a motion for personnel items 1 through 3 plus the green addendum. Liz and Dana, any questions or comments?
Again, good evening. This evening, it's my pleasure to bring forward the recommendation for a new director of counseling for the district. I'm pleased to recommend Jessica Smedley, who's joining us this evening in the audience, as our next director of counseling. Jessica brings 14 years of administrative experience, serving as both the current director of guidance for Hillsborough Township Public Schools, as well as formerly from the East Windsor Regional School District, where she was a supervisor of counseling. Prior to serving as a district administrator, Jessica served as both a middle school and high school counselor. In 2009, she was named the Somerset County School Counselor of the Year by the Somerset County School Counselors Association. She's currently the legislative chair for the New Jersey School Counselors Association and a current doctoral candidate at Montclair State University. She's also a national certified counselor and a licensed professional counselor with a degree in specialty in marriage and family counseling. Jessica Smedley brings forward a tremendous wealth of knowledge to West Windsor-Plainsboro. She'll make her stronger. She'll serve our families and our students well. We're pleased to recommend her this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Adderholt. So with that, roll call, Chris?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Okay, next is Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Sponsel.
Yes.
Ms. Chenier.
Yes.
Ms. Hunter.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. McKeown.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes. So thank you and congratulations, Jessica. All right, so we'll now move to the approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the June 27 minutes? Louisa and Loy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, and Chris, I abstain as well. Thank you. All right, are there any board liaison reports? Okay. Any new business? Okay. All right, that takes us to the second opportunity for public comments. The board invites comments from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. The public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. Are there any public comments?
Starry greeting, Makaran Bidway, Princeton, New Jersey. The attorney raised an issue that it's not a big deal. Yes, it's a big deal if that's a board member. It's a bad optics and bad ethics because it's a turn lane and then it's a shoulder abutting the school, 2 school buildings. That's not safe. The board member is doing it. What are you going to tell the other parents? Why can't you fix it? Forget whether she did it or not. The question is, why is it not fixed? Anyway, I'm going to move on. The bigger concern is the failure of the superintendent to frame issues, which is what the professor was bringing about. And that failure is visible throughout and throughout. I will be bringing a compilation of his own voice in the last few years, or at least in the last few months, to show where that professor is right. And this is my personal observation. When I came here first, I met him about 4 or 5 years ago, within 2 minutes, and I have written this to many of you many times. The superintendent lacks situational awareness and surroundings education. That can be a euphemism for framing failure. He cannot frame a problem. Why? And madam, I had requested you to obtain his IQ. I had requested you to do his psychological evaluation, his misdemeanor, the way he talks. He has refused to meet parents. He has not met me once. In previous school district, the superintendent and I would meet at least 4 or 5 times a year. I have no idea what is going on here. He has been protected by all faulty evaluations and on and on and on. All I'm saying is the framing failure, and I'm going to give you one concrete example right now. On February 28, when there were about 20-30 parents here and they brought up the issue of this late start, he has said, and I'm going to bring his recording next time, that it's a matter of sleep, not when they wake up, or they need a certain duration of sleep. That's what he said, or something like that. No, that's not what it is. The AAP is very clear. The adolescents need to get up late. He did not understand that. Again and again, I'm not an Einstein here, but if you look at the way he speaks, his grasp of details is zero. He has made mistakes with margin of error, on and on and on. I don't want to do this now because I want an actual audio footage so I can prove my point that the person sitting in the position of the superintendent has a framing failure, his lack of situational awareness, his lack of surrounding educations, and in that particular NPR interview, madam, his delivery was extremely shallow. While that lady professor did bookend it with praise for his supporting the mental health, but he's not doing that. The high school students are more stressed today. So he's a complete failure.
All right, thank you.
To resign.
All right, 3 minutes are up. Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening. My name is, excuse me. Good evening. My name is Edward Simon Cruz. I reside at 5 Sullivan Street, Plainsboro. First off, excuse me, thank you to the board and to Dr. Adderholt, who has done a lot for us as superintendent all these years, including, he came into this district while I was already a student here, but the work that you have done, and well, this district has been through a lot in the last few years, but the work that administrators like you do and that Dr. Dauber do and Ms. O'Brien do and Mr. Thomas and Ms. Singh, the work that they do is very valuable to all of us, and we did want to recognize that on behalf of myself and the other students who are present in this room and also not present in this room at this time. As someone who has recently graduated, to be frank, I don't necessarily need to be here right now. Mainly, I am here because I do support Dr. Dauber and Ms. O'Brien, the work that they have done for us. Other students have already spoken about the work that they have done, the ways in which they have enriched our experiences. Mrs. O'Brien, I've had the pleasure of working with her to help bring North's first ever SEL Day to life, as she kind of helped us along the way, helped us make sure that we were on top of things, recognized the students of HealU, such as myself and my other colleagues, for the hard work that we were putting in, and Dr. Dauber, who is not only a great principal but also a great father, and that sort of attention that he brings to his own children, he brings to all of us. He's the kind of person who would step down and address us, try to break that barrier between administrator and student, and he would talk to us, and he'd be genuine about it because he cares about us. We know it. We see it every day in the hallway. We see it every day when we're leaving for lunch, and he waves goodbye to us as we leave the school. It's something that whatever the board has decided, and we obviously we are here to respect that position, but we do also hope that you consider and appreciate the work that Dr. Dauber and Ms. O'Brien have done for all of us at North, and we know that between the students and the administrators at North, we are going to have a bright future at this school, and I'm very optimistic about that. That being said, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hello. My name is Akash Nayak, and I live at 3 Glacier Drive, West Windsor. So I'm going to be honest that I don't come up here being someone talking as a president of a club or someone who always talks to Dr. Dauber trying to organize a school-wide event. A lot of the time, I'm a person in the crowd. And from that position, what I see is when I've walked through the hallway in passing time, he's standing there waving at students, and no one's afraid to talk to him about their day, what they're thinking, or just to say hello. Whenever we have a school assembly and he gets up to talk, he always gets down from behind his podium and he talks to the student face to face. He has a genuine connection. He genuinely cares. And I understand that these personnel changes are district-wide. He's not the only one being moved. And there are other candidates who have good credentials. But what I'm here to say is that Dr. Dauber cares about the students. And from my experience from 4 years of high school, yes, I too don't really need to be here right now. I'm graduated, I will be moving on, but I see how much he cares. And when Dr. Otterhold was endorsing the new counselor, he was saying that they will make us stronger. And I have seen firsthand that Dr. Dauber makes his students stronger. And he serves students and families well. So while I appreciate being said that we're listened to, I also know that action is the best way to show that people are listened to. And I respect the committee's decision, but I hope they take into account all of the students' voices and they consider what we've had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay. With that, we'll close the second opportunity for public comment.
Just to our two student speakers, again, my thanks for your public comments. I appreciate your willingness to stand up and speak on behalf of your former principal, as you're both graduates now. Edmund, we've had an opportunity to work together over time, and I greatly appreciate your comments as well. With respect to the gentleman that is infatuated with me, I appreciate it, I truly do. And it's a sad state of affairs when your free time is spent coming to this Board of Education and to administration to harass us. The truth is that the turn lane that gentleman speaks to is just a craw in his own, it's his own personal issue, right? There's been numerous times when we've seen you on the side of the road having conversations about the turn lane. You're not the only one with photographs of that. And to attack a board member inaccurately, both through email as well as public comment, is both defamation and slander. You have a miraculous way of lifting things out of context, but you don't care about context because all you're trying to do is railroad a position. You've done it numerous times, and you've consistently disrespected me. So amazingly, the individual that won't be subjected to an IQ test doesn't want to sit with you 3 to 4 times a year to have a conversation. Amazing. Your strategies for building relationships with this Board of Education administration are not working. They will not work. And you will never have a conversation with me about anything that you're bringing forward if you continue to treat us like this. That is not how we operate for the 15 now years that I've been working in this district. Those seniors that graduated last year and the year before were not students in this district when I started working here. I've given my last 15 years to this school community, and I will be here till I retire, and I'll be handing your children diplomas. In fact, I might just stay to make sure I can hand your children diplomas. I wish everyone a great evening, a wonderful August, and I can't wait to welcome our students back in September. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Dr. Otterhold. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Pooja and Liz? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Good night, everyone.